Om Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Matrirupena Sansthita Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shaktirupena Sansthita Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shantirupena Sansthita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha Om Namo Namaha Shri Mirambikayai Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Aravindaya Om Namo Namaha Shri Mirambikayai Shri Aravinda Sharanam Mama. All right, we are in the middle of our discussion of the meaning. So before we go into etymology per se, and that means the roots and overview of all the roots and possible meanings in relation to the sound, I wanted to lay out the background, so to say, where this problem is taken from Vedic literature, from Sri Aurobindo, from linguistic studies, from semantic studies, and so on. I want to kind of dive deeper. I want to dive deeper into the very topic, into the very problem, because it's a big fundamental problem of meaning, our meaning and the form correspond. What is really the meaning? And why meaning should correspond with the form? What is the truth, actually? What is the correspondence of consciousness and power? How they go together? And if they don't go together, what happens then? So this is the fundamental issue for Indian philosophy. And let me project my PowerPoint where we stopped. If you have some questions or need clarifications or want to cut in, please do. Yeah, you can just cut in any time. Just say, oh, wait a minute, let me clarify this, or I would like to say something. Yes, please be free. I like it, actually. It's not bothering me at all. It's actually helping me. So if you want to help me, cut in. For some people, it is disturbing. For me, it is just the opposite. You know, when I was making film on Avadhanis are the poets who create poetry on the spot, you know. And I was so surprised because he has 8 Prichakas Ashtavadhani, and one of those is Aprastuta Prasanga, the one who is interfering all the time and asks stupid questions. And he, on priority, must answer him first and then continue to compose his poem. So every time he cuts in to disturb his concentration. And he's so annoying. Everybody is so annoyed with him. And then I asked Avadhani, you see, for this Aprastuta Prasanga is always coming in the most difficult moment of your concentration and tries to deviate you. He said, no, he is helping me. And I said, how come he helps you? He says, in the moment when I am kind of in the difficulty of finding the solution, he cuts in and my mind relaxes and solution comes. Just think about it. It's an interesting psychological device, yes. So not to reject any interference, but to take it in and hold, of course, we have to hold that concentration behind, and then the solution comes, some other vision. So similar, I must say about myself, if you count in, you will always help me, because the topic is quite difficult. I'm projecting the...
Vladimir,
Yes,
I like the way you use the word cut right there.
cut in, right. Great. Okay, let's look into what Sri Aurobindo says on the usage of the Vedic rishis, of the Vedic Sanskrit, the word. So, philological method, I was recommending you to read this chapter. I do not know whether you had an opportunity to see it. Most probably not. Usually people don't do homeworks. It did. Oh, Melissa did. Okay. It's a profound, and you also, yeah, Bhavani, nice, because it is a profound chapter. By the way, it is the most interesting chapter ever um, in this particular topic of how Vedic rishis found the way to convey that greater knowledge. So, thus, each word in Vedic Sanskrit had a general character or quality, guna, which was capable of a great number of applications and therefore a great number of possible significances. And this guna or quality and its results, it shared with many kindred sounds. So it wasn't just one particular, as we examined station, staying, stool, stable, stupid, yes, it is sharing with many kindred sounds similar significance, similar meaning. That is the meaning of the sound. At first, therefore, word clans, word families started life on the communal system with a common stock of possible or realized significances, that means contextual applications, and a common right to all of them. Their individuality lay rather in shades of expression of the same ideas than in any exclusive right to the expression of a single idea. Yes, definitely. I will share all these quotations. Actually, I opened the Google Drive for you, the folder, and there you will find all the materials. You don't need to go anywhere. Just go there and you will find the materials which we are using here.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. The principle of partition was at first fluid. That's interesting. Then increased in rigidity until word families and finally single words were able to start life on their own account, as if independently. For in the first state of language, the word is a living or even a more living force than idea. Sound determines sense. In its last state, the position have been reversed. The idea becomes all important, the sound secondary. This is something to think of. The word has a power, the sound has a power which pulls out or generates or creates, is a parent of an idea. It generates the meaning. It creates the idea in terms of manifestation, of course. The Vedic Sanskrit abounds in a variety of forms and inflections. It is fluid and vague, yet richly subtle in its use of cases and tenses. And on its psychological side, it has not yet crystallized. is not entirely hardened into the rigid forms of intellectual precision. The word for the Vedic rishi is still a living thing, a thing of power, creative, formative. It is not yet a conventional symbol for an idea, but itself the parent and former of ideas. It carries within it the memory of its roots, is still conscient of its own history. So this carrying memory of its roots, of that system of etymons which we refer to in a systematic way, that all sounds correlate, they all give a particular shade of meaning or use of meaning, which overlap and play roles in creating of different words and words families. That Brihaspati's word, yes, which is always identical with power or with truth of existence, so to say, authentic word, is still there behind every word with precision. And poets feel that particular significance, deeper significance of the word, which is inherent in the sound. So the Rishi's use of language was governed by the ancient psychology of the word. When in English we use the word wolf or cow, we mean by it simply an animal designated. We are not conscious of any reason why we should use that particular sound for the idea except the immemorial custom of the language. And we cannot use it for any other sense or purpose except by an artificial device of style. But for the Vedic Rishi, Vrika meant the terror, and therefore among other applications of the sense, a wolf. Dhenu meant a fosterer, nourisher, and therefore a cow. But the original and general predominates. The derived and particular is secondary. So we could call a wolf or vrika. Vrika is from root vrasho, vrij, to tear. It's a tear, the one who tears apart. So there can be anybody can be wolf, and we sometimes use this in our languages also, especially Red Indians in US. They used this very often. Like he is the eagle eye or something. So they were giving characteristics to the people, assigning them particular characteristics. So the same here. Language is highly, how to say, descriptive, or in Sanskrit there is no big difference between adjectives and nouns, because all nouns are actually adjectives. They are describing the reality in a particular way. They're saying about this thing that this thing is a terror and that thing is a fosterer, and so on. They're telling us what these things are doing. And by the way, there is a huge dispute is going on in Yaskas, the most ancient treatise on etymology, which should be our major guide. And I studied Yaskas Niruktam in Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute 30 years more back. In his treatise, he discusses how these objects got a particular name, why Ashva is Ashva. And we discussed this before, yes? Why Ashva is the horse is the horse. Why? Who named the horse the horse? Yeah? So, and he says that Ashva is from Ashu, to be swift. Yeah, there is a word Ashu. So Ashva is a running thing, a running being, running creature. And then he asks, but why don't we call anybody who is running the horse? Because he's running. And there is a very interesting answer. He says that some names got their particular quality, and that quality got stuck to them and became like a nickname, which indicated that particular object or subject in that particular one characteristic. But we can call horse by many names, highlighting different qualities. But we somehow, in the language, we preferred to call it running. That's how it became a horse. And then later we forgot it. And then Ashwa has no association with running in our mind. So this choice of words, this freedom to choose to describe the object in a particular way by highlighting a particular quality or power of the object or relation or meaning, is something we inherited in our consciousness. And our consciousness is quite free to choose the choice of words we want to apply to certain descriptions. And that freedom we should not lose. We should not be narrowed down to very particular intellectual precision, because then we lose the flexibility of consciousness. We become very rigid, black and white. Our choice is very narrow. We are always waiting for the right word to satisfy because we want to communicate. I see this problem all the time. When we should be able to create new words, new meanings, but we are not daring to do it. Even new grammatical structures, we are not daring to do it because we are so engraved into this particular formation and want to be understood by others immediately, easily, that we must use what is in the common use. But that flexibility, that capacity is still there, and we can tap into it, and we can open up. Poets know about this, singers know about this. They find a very special way of expressing themselves. You can see this in rap. People started to use language differently, rhythmically, creating new words, new meanings. It's amazing. Our language is alive. It's not something, kind of stiffened to particular form, and that's it. So, and here Sri Aurobindo says about how this higher word traveled from the highest consciousness to the expressed form of speech. Let us suppose, says Sri Aurobindo, a conscious use of the vibrations of sound, which will produce corresponding forms or changes of form, because all forms are in some way vibrations behind, and these vibrations generate forms, create forms, which become rigid and become formed by the particular vibration behind. Let us realize then that a vibration of sound on the material plane presupposes a corresponding vibration on the vital, without which it could not have come into play. And this is totally true. If there would be no vital force vibration, this particular formation would not come into existence. It needs the vital vibration. It needs the vibration of life force behind for any form to come into being. That again presupposes a corresponding originative vibration on the mental plane. A mental plane is a concept or vision, an idea. Why these forces have to come into these clusters forming that particular material form. The mental presupposes a corresponding originative vibration on the supramental, at the very root of things, that which manifests the worlds. But a mental vibration implies thought and perception, and a supramental vibration implies a supreme vision and discernment. all vibrations of sound on that higher plane is, then, instinct with and expressive of this supreme discernment of a truth in things, and is at the same time creative, instinct with the supreme power which casts into forms the truth discerned, and eventually, descending from plane to plane, reproduces it in the physical form or object created in matter by etheric sound. It's kind of my mouthful. Yes, in one sentence, the whole creation. Thus we see that the theory of creation by the word, which is the absolute expression of the truth, and the theory of the material creation by sound vibration in the ether correspond and are two logical poles of the same idea. They both belong to the same ancient Vedic system. So this world was created by some vibration of consciousness. Yeah? And that vibration generated in the ether, certain then in the air, then in the fire, then in the water, certain clusters of forces which interacted and generated some particular forms of atoms and molecules, and finally the whole manifestation came into being. And the same vibration of consciousness is reflected in our consciousness as the word. It generates both. It generates the understanding of the form and the form itself. The understanding, the consciousness is inbuilt in form, it seems. That's why we understand the form, any form. Because there is consciousness there, the same in us as in the form. There's something in the chat going on.
Oh, you're back now. You froze for us for a little bit.
Oh, right.
So
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 sorry.
you were talking about creation from the different planes coming into form, and then you froze.
I froze into form. Yes, right. That's very significant. Uh, this happens somehow. Right. So these two, as you see, we live in two parallel realities, in the reality of the form or objects as we recognize them, and the
Frozen again.
again. Somehow, okay, I will change.
There we go. He's back.
I'm changing we have two different connections.
Yeah, he's freezing now, I think.
Frozen again?
Now you're back.
Back.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, let's try on this connection. So basically, we live in the two realities: linguistic reality, the reality of understanding of the form, how this form relates to other forms, so to say, comprehension and apprehension of the form. We are among forms, we are ourselves a form. So we deal with physical reality, as it were, or the vital or mental reality of concepts. And at the same time, we understand how those concepts, how those physical objects relate. So there is a fundamental issue of relation of the form and the name, or the meaning and the sound. How this meaning and sound relate, how the being and consciousness relate, how consciousness and force relate. These are the fundamental issues. If they relate, we have the meaning, we have the truth. If they don't, then we don't have it. So I wanted us to see these two fundamentals, Artha and Shabda. Artha is the meaning, Shabda is the word. The whole discussion in the general and theoretical linguistics, even today in phenomenology, in the ancient linguistics, is about the relation of these two, how the meaning and the word relate. And that is the fundamental approach to etymology. So in the ancient texts, we find this discussion on Rupa and Nama, form and name, or Artha and Shabda, meaning and the word. Or even in the Vedas, in the earlier texts, we find this discussion on heaven and earth, or Manas and Vak, mind and word, whereas heaven is the mind and earth is the word, or heaven is father and earth is mother. Interesting, huh? Word is mother. It is she, Vak. Chakshuh and Shrotram, two fundamental faculties of consciousness, seeing and hearing. Seeing the form, hearing the name, the word. Vachya and Vachaka, it's closer to our time from Vakyapadiya in Tantra. Signified and signifier from Ferdinand de Saussure, yeah? Who is considered to be the father of general linguistics in the West. Actually, he was the Sanskrit scholar, the professor of Sanskrit, whose PhD was in Sanskrit grammar, by the way. And of course, he took this idea from Vachya and Vachaka of Bhartrihari, signified and signifier. Something is being signified by something which is signifying it. The meaning of something which exists is going together with it. Apprehensive and comprehensive cognition. We recognize the form. When we see something, we see the form, and then how we understand that form, we understand it by what? By the word. If I show you this, and I will ask you what do you see, you will tell me that you see frozen again? No? Yeah, something is happening again. I'm here. Are you here? I can see you.
Yeah, we can hear you now, but in between you had gone. And then also the slide is unreadable right now.
Oh, my God. So
Looks
bad.
from our language.
So bad. Wait a minute. Usually it's never so bad. Is it better now? You tell me. I'm just going from one connection to another.
Looks good.
It's okay.
Chakshu Shrotam.
Yes, Chakshuh Shrotram. Or sometimes they speak about Drishti and Shruti. These are the revelation Drishti, when you see the form directly, and Shruti, when you have that inspirational knowledge or understanding of how this form relates to all other forms, the word. So if I want to ask you, this is the fundamental issue of the meaning, yeah? The seeing and hearing. There are two major faculties of consciousness, seeing and hearing, and they are related. Once they are related properly, then we have the meaning. Who is the God? Kau Devo Yunakti. Who is the God who unites Chakshuh Shrotram Kau Devo Yunakti? Asks Kena Upanishad. Who unites hearing and seeing into one being, existence? It's a kind of question of which cannot be answered. Yeah? The Brahman, the spirit, unites both, seeing and hearing into one existence, form and the meaning of it, or meaning in the word. So if we look into their relations in the particular way of the faculties of consciousness, we would see that Shrotram, hearing, and word is on the one side, you see on the right, and on the left you see Manas and Chakshuh, the thought and seeing. If Vak is active, word is active vibration when we express ourselves, then Shrotram is perceptive, how we perceive the vibration, hearing. If Manas is active, thought producing or imagining, then seeing is perceptive. When we see, we are becoming passive, as it were, perceptive of the form. So passive and active faculties of both nama and rupa, form and name, spirit and self, atman and brahman, as it were. So they generate a possibility for the brahman to manifest. As it is said in Shatapatha Brahmana, Brahman manifests by nama and rupa, by name and form. And these two are constantly going together in dvandvas. Manas and Vak is a constant dvandva, that pair. The thought and the
Vladimir,
word.
please, this, not the right moment, maybe.
Yes, 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 right, always right. Please go ahead.
I think you should ask.
But I see him frozen.
Froze again. Am I frozen again?
No?
No.
Comes and goes.
Yes. Please go ahead.
Yes, so this Namarupa, no, which is so often quoted even by Sri Aurobindo.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more precisely about which kind of nicknames they are? I mean, in their etymology, what is the aspect which is, because I guess that, you know, even the concept of name and form is,
All right. You want
you
to
see what I mean?
etymology of name and form. Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Of Nama and Rupa, yes, to understand how they are.
Right. It's kind of a tough question now, but
Okay.
yes, but good question. I will keep it. I will try to answer it maybe by thinking a little bit. I tried to find the etymology for nama. It's very vague. For rupa is easier. It's like from here we have form, yes, and we have rupakas, rupakani, rupees even. And rubles, actually, it was something which was cut, shaped, like carved, carving. You have to have a physical form to carve it. And for nama, it's more relational. It's how it relates. Like there is namrut also, to surrender, to bow down, and name is a vague etymology. Why name?
My teacher, she would break it down to be not measurable, beyond measure.
Well, this is it's funny, that kind of right. Folk etymology, we call it, when people take syllables separately and give them the meanings of the roots. Unfortunately, it's not so easy because there is always a priority of the first syllable over the second and the third. So there is a hierarchy of meaning. The root is the first, then you have the suffix, which relates this root to grammatical character, and then there is the ending, which relates the whole word to other words. So you see this hierarchy of the elements within the word. They are not equal in the meaning. So, but in the folk etymology, folk, it's a legal term in the theoretical linguistics. We call folk etymology. That means what you feel or what you gather out of it. Whatever you understand out of it, could get out of it. So if you look at this particular formation, you will see that we have these two nama and rupa on both sides, so one form on the left, and on the right we have the name and the meaning, how this form relates to other forms. They both manifest something which we call prana, or life force. And that life force is nothing but the spirit manifested in the matter. Material form comes into existence by these two, by seeing and hearing. This is something very fundamental and necessary for us to understand. I'm still kind of wondering about this beautiful, simplistic and direct picture and understanding of the relation of the form and name. And of course, these there are several levels of meaning, which I would like to touch upon today before we go into the roots. So we have three levels of meaning, as I was mentioning before. And these are the levels of, in semiotics, in the studies of the meaning, today in the modern science of meaning, we have semantics, syntactics, and pragmatics, as you know. And it's quite interesting that they covered all levels of meaning. Semantics, if you look into the definitions, you will find that they are covering exactly these broader fields or different approaches to meaning. Semantics will deal with meaning, proper meaning as such. Syntactics with the structure, how this meaning appears within the language. Syntax, yeah, how it relates to other meanings within the text. And pragmatics is how it is connected to third-party meanings, how it is applied, application, action upon the world, what it creates there, what it means for the world outside. And there are three major functions of language. There is creative, which I think relates to the semantics. There is cognitive, which relates to syntactics, and communicative, to pragmatics. Three powers of the word: intentional self-expression. Every time we say something, we try to express a new message or something which came to us, which we want to express in a particular context. It is that intention which or that pashyanti vak, which we will look later into. Like, aha, I got it. I want to say it. It makes sense now to do this. Yeah? And then structural semantics or syntax, which is relational meaning of grammatical meanings, such as cases, tenses, modes, voices, yeah, all that which creates the syntax within which we understand. Syntactic meaning is easy to understand in this way. If I tell you something, you understand, this goes from here to there and from here back to itself. Do you understand me? Yes. Yeah. I gave you a structure of a movement of something to somewhere and back to itself. And this is the structure which has meaning. Usually we understand meaning today in this structural semantic, in the grammatical meanings, and we think we understand something. But we don't understand. We just draw the pictures of particular activity, but we do not know the meaning of it. We understand what has happened, but we don't understand why it has happened or what it really means. We have no idea. We constantly speak about things. When I was studying in the philological department in the university and in the course of general linguistics, I was playing this game. I kind of wrote two different stories about two different things. One was about physics, other was about love story. But I used the same syntax, same relations. So subject relates to object in this way, then the object is deviated from its movement, comes back to another, and then finds solution and comes back to itself. Suppose this is the structure. I'm using it among kind of describing the relations between two lovers and between two elements in the chemical process. And what is interesting, when you read these two stories one after the other, you have a déjà vu feeling, as if you know, as if you heard already the story, as if you know what it is about, because you got the structure from the first story, which is superimposed on the next. Can you imagine that kind of sense of the semantics within the structure? Structure has a meaning, its own meaning. And we usually, when we speak about the meaning, we relate to this, we refer to this structure, not to the semantic, not to the proper meaning, what it really means, or why it is there, not even to pragmatics. So this is the grammatical structure. And finally, the pragmatic application and the consequences, which are coming from this application. That's what generates that activity outside in the third party. So we have also 3 Shaktis of the word in Tantra, and that's quite interesting. Ichha Shakti, the Shakti of intention or wish or will, want. Jnana Shakti, the Shakti of cognition or knowledge, knowing what it is. And Kriya Shakti, the action. Now, they are related in the same format. So we have the intention, we want something, and that's how we generate the text, which text has its own Jnana Shakti, because all the elements within the text relate in a proper way, which project our want, and that can be communicated as Kriya Shakti and creates the action. And there are 3 levels of Vakya Padiya, of course, of Bhartrihari, Pashyanti Vak, Madhyama Vak, and Vaikhari Vak, which we know already. The seeing speech, the middle word, and finally the expressive word. So we have this hierarchy, which Aurobindo beautifully described in this in this quotation. Yes, we presuppose, so to say, it all starts from supramental to mental to vital and finally to physical. So supramental can be paravak. From the paravak we come to pashyantivak as a lightning which is flashing down and bringing the intention to be expressed. Then we take this intention, we do not have yet the word for it, and we dress it into the language. We take the language, the syntax, the formation, whatever language it may be. It may be verbal language, or it may be language of mathematics, of music, of art, of dance. It doesn't matter. The language, the system of symbols, is the dressing of that intention. We have to make it visible, to make it perceptible and understood by others, because they are using the same language as we are. So within that language, understood by others, we express our intention. And that's how we communicate. You have a trouble with the connection, yeah? Still, I'm freezing still? No?
No. Vladimir, I have one more question. This notion of intention you mentioned is related to the word icha. Is something which is there since very old, because in Western culture it's something extremely recent, like
it's
nearly 100 years, maybe less.
Right. I know, because it all came from Sanskrit, by the way, from Sanskrit literature and studies and philosophy. And it generated the whole phenomenology and structuralism and post-structuralism. All this is built on the relation of the meaning and the sound, or the form and the understanding of the form. It's quite interesting, yes, that we have such a limited instrument, so to say. We are dealing only with two major faculties of consciousness. So we looked into these. I'm sure these are quite obvious and clear. And now I want to show you my picture, which I created long ago, but I consider it to be very intuitive in a way. How these two, Artha and Shabda, the form and the meaning of the form, the word and the meaning of the thing, the being, relate. And you can see that they are one and the same. I created like a blue field, it is for the word, red field, it is for the form. Again freezing, yeah? Oh God, what is this?
Well, you're back now, so.
So sorry, it's just so pleasant. This has to flow easily. It's already a difficult subject. Let me try.
Well, we interrupting poet today.
Well, something is stumbling here.
This is really nice. This is a really nice graphic.
Yeah, you intuitively immediately understand what I want to say. Yes. So on each level, they have specific relations. This nama and rupa, or this form and the meaning of the form, or signified and signifier. So they are related. On the highest level of paravak, transcendental speech, they are one and the same. Chit Shakti is one and the same. But when it comes down to the mental level, Pashyantivak, it becomes, in the Pashyantivak, they are still the same, but already in the stage of differentiating of the form from the name, or of the meaning of that particular form or its application. It's already becoming visible or sensible or something. We want to manifest that difference. On the level of the Madhyama, they are totally separate, you see. So ahanta and idanta, and these are the terms from Tantra, ahanta, I-ness, and idanta, thisness. I-ness and thisness separate. So I will be speaking about this in terms of subjective application. So what I want from it, how I see it fit into my context. So I assign to it a particular meaning. So the word separates from that particular vibration, which generates both the form and the word. So, and then on the level of Vaikari, they are totally separate. The objects and the words. There are two different realities. The linguistic reality, which corresponds to the physical reality in a particular way, which seem to be separate, but they are not separate. This is an important issue for us, of correspondence of Vak and Artha, or Shabda and Artha. And this is maybe for the next time. We will look into the different functions of the word. And one more thing I wanted to say today. And this is something which struck me. Sri Aurobindo speaks about knowledge. So what is really knowledge? But this knowledge is not a systematized result of mental questionings and reasonings, not a temporary arrangement of conclusions and opinions in the terms of the highest probability, as it is today for us, but rather a pure self-existent and self-luminous truth. And this bliss is not a supreme pleasure of the heart and sensations with the experience of pain and sorrow as its background, but a delight also self-existent and independent of objects and particular experiences. A self-delight which is the very nature, the very stuff, as it were, of a transcendent and infinite experience. Why I read this here, it just doesn't fit into all discussion, but it fits in my mind because I want to say that the word is an inherent part of this reality. It is not something additional. It is not something byproduct from this kind of evolution. It is an intrinsic part of and expression of this consciousness, of this truth, which generates this experience and this understanding of reality around us and within us. And the word permeates, pervades the whole manifestation. Its expression and consciousness is present everywhere. In Savitri, Sri Aurobindo speaks about the word that knows. The word that knows. The word capital W. So there is a presence within which is holding and expressing this manifestation. And without this word, without this part of the name, manifestation would not come into existence. It's not about the form only. It's about understanding of that form and relation of that form to all other forms in a meaningful way, a meaningful, creative, and blissful way of knowledge. That bliss is the element which is missing. And once it is there, then there is no more difference between form and name. They come together because they are there to generate that pranic experience of delight. This is it for today. So that is these two kind of were introductions, and from now on we will just look into the system of etymons, how they build these meanings in Sanskrit language and in Indo-European languages also. Okay, if you have some questions, insights, want to say something, please go ahead.
Vladimir, just a slightly off topic, but not completely off topic, question about any resources that you would recommend. I often get questions about, what is the difference between Veda and Tantra, especially for those who are very, very unfamiliar with the areas. And so I found a few resources to send them to, but, something that is accessible to people who are just learning about mantra, just learning about the Vedas, just learning about Tantra. I find that in my work, even within our culture, there is still such a misconception of what Tantra is, and many people don't understand how tantric practices are integrated into our cultural traditions and religious traditions that don't consider themselves tantric. So I'm just wondering, because I notice you as a teacher do a similar thing where you weave them in together, which is how I do it as well. If you have any clarifying references, I would be
Sure.
grateful for them.
Sure. The best actually explanation I ever got for on this, it was from Sri Aurobindo again, who says that first of all, we know that Tantra is Tantra is Veda for Kali Yuga, yes? That's the definition from the tradition. So Veda in Kali Yuga would become Tantra. Yeah? But Sri Aurobindo gives a very good definition. He says that the Vedic approach is from knowledge to power, to experience. Yeah? So, and the Tantric is from power to knowledge.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, makes total difference.
Interpretation.
Mm-hmm. It makes total sense because they are going from experience to knowledge. So they're kind of experimenting, as it were. They have the system of their own, so to say, teachers. That's why it requires teacher. You cannot practice tantra on your own, because the teacher has to help you with that particular practice, which will lead you to knowledge. But Veda is built differently. The knowledge must be first, which leads to power, and it's quite interesting.
When you say that, it makes me think of your graphic, and that very simplistic idea of the top down or bottom up process, where you're moving from para down to down to the level. So you start with the all and the concept and all of that. It's just, to me, it's a difference in practice more than it's a difference in whatever you would call it, the philosophy or the understanding, right? So if the way Veda is traditionally taught is by concept and then into form, then Tantra could be seen as coming from the subtle to the illumined word, and then to Para, but they lead to the same place.
Oh,
That's just
definitely.
how I see it.
Definitely. They lead to the same place. Tantra starts more with the form and comes to the understanding, arrives at understanding. Understanding is not crucial for Tantra from the beginning. You have to practice. The practice is more important. And once you know how to practice, what to do, how to meditate, how to do japa, how to do puja, how to do asanas, pranayama, you practice, and you arrive at certain state in which you understand, know. You don't start with knowledge, you start with practice. By the way, today's world is built on this also, yeah? Fake it till you make it. Practice.
Yeah.
Practice, and then you will arrive at something. You will see what it is. Yeah? It's more tantric. Yes.
I have a question. Maybe this is what we are supposed to be studying further on. But when you were talking about the wolf and it's having that VRKA, and then the cow as they know, because that the root. So is there a, I mean, are we going to understand how did these four alphabets get chosen as a root of the Sanskrit word? Was there something to the root of the root also? Like those were four alphabets. So are we going to understand? Because then that means that every alphabet has something. And a combination of alphabet creates a certain root, which means something. For example, VRKA meant to tear apart. So it's
Yeah.
just something
We will
which is.
look into it from the next time on. We will start looking deeply into these roots. Why Vrika is from the family of Vri, and Vri has many significances from here. Vritra, Varuna from here, Vrenoti, yes, all these choosing, covering. Why Varuna is covering all enveloping sky, and Vritra is obstructing. So what is choosing? We will go deeper into the semantics, trying to figure out where it comes from. And it comes from U and Ri. U is duality, and Ri is this holding within the limit, concentration. So you will see that Uru from here also wide. There's the whole world is behind that simple root, reassembled in a particular formation of contextual application. And then we have Vrij finally, which is extended root with J, that the closing of the root is not the same powerful as opening. That's what I wanted to say. There is a hierarchy of meaning. What is first is most powerful. What is next is less and less, or has a particular function to connect words or to connect meanings or to create morphological meaning and so on.
Yeah.
Grammatical
No, I get that.
significance.
No,
Yeah.
Vladimir, my question is, are we going to, is there a root or something behind the alphabets also in Sanskrit? I'm talking about the alphabet itself.
Alphabet is, interestingly, yes, we mentioned last time that it is the system of articulatory devices which we have inbuilt in this particular, physiology. So we have a tongue, we have two jaws, we have a palate, hard palate, soft palate, teeth, we have lips, we have vocal cords, yeah, and that tongue is very flexible. Why animals cannot speak? Because actually tongue is language. Actually, it's quite interesting. The tongue inside our mouth is incredible. Have you seen the picture of X-ray? How we speak? Oh, you have to see languages. Incredible what it does. It is dancing, such a complex dance. It's not just simple kind of touches. It is here tension, softer tension, higher tension, lower tension, wider. It is constantly like a wave. It is doing that like a flame, like a tongue of the flame. It is flaming there. Yeah? Just to speak, and together with vocal cords, constantly breathing out, breathing in, it touches. It's a very complex device to articulate sounds, but we have only five sthanas where we can articulate sounds, 5 levels, and on these 5 levels we can do these particular articulations, such as voiceless touched, voiceless aspirated touched, voiced touched, voiced aspirated touched, nasal, through nasal cave. There is this nasal cave still plus to it. And there are vowels. That means vowels are this vocal cords, and tongue is, and lips are modulating the R sound. That R sound is modulated by without touch. These are vowels. And they are all meaningful in terms of our psychological experience or the state of consciousness when we do it, because this physical apparatus creates a particular tension. When we do E, it's a tension, it's a particular color. When we do U, it's another particular state of consciousness, which is associated in our perception of ourselves as duality, maybe because there are two lips, I have no idea, maybe must be that. And you can see everywhere duality, dual, two, you second person, thou second person, Sanskrit tvam, dvau, all dualities will have u in it. Why? Because there's something about u sound which is so. This psychology is inbuilt into the Sanskrit roots. And we will look into it, we will discover it, and then we will see how beautifully it is present in the text. So each word has that deeper significance, deeper color, or deeper hue of meaning. And that's how we have to read the Vedas. That's the meaning of the Veda. It goes deeper. It touches deeper sense of that Brihaspati's word, that general significance or universal meaning, which is there as the color. And then contextual application, description. We describe the reality. We apply to it different names, different adjectives.
Vladimir, again on Namarupa, is there any classic reference and some like a classic text for this, or do you have any idea when Sri Aurobindo refers to this, if he has some specific text in mind, or what can be his source?
Oh, I will give you, I will give you
Thanks
this.
a lot, because I was banging my head on this when I was studying like commentaries on Isha Upanishad. It goes back very often to this Namarupa, and it took a while. So if you have some references, that would be very precious.
Absolutely.
And
It's everywhere. Nama Rupa is in all Brahmanas, in all Upanishads. You will find it. The whole Upanishadic vision is built on these faculties of consciousness, basically.
So there is no sort of first text that lays the foundation of this expression, no? Because it becomes almost like one Namarupa, like it was a...
Right. There are first mentionings in Shatapatha Brahmana, yes. It starts from Brahmanic literature. It's not in the Samhitas yet. Samhitas do not kind of go in that direction. It's already mentalizing the process of our perception. You can see that it's mentalization or conceptualization, let us say. In the Vedas, they don't really care about this. They deal with the direct experience.
And a very last thing, I was very interested by this idea of the etymology of a name, no, as based on the idea of relation, and I will keep on wondering, no, to which kind of relation this could point, because first thing first thing that came to my mind is from the idea to the object. But I guess this is a very Western, or can be maybe a Western interpretation. Anyway, I found it very interesting, and I'll keep.
Yeah, I want to share about that because this is such an Indian concept. I remember when I went to the US and I was a student and I was studying, and I was always introduced as this is Rashi. She's from India, and now she's going to ask you the meaning of your name. Because invariably I would just keep asking, so what does it mean? What does your name mean? And people found it so strange that, I always thought there was a meaning behind a name when it was just a, regular name, say John. So and that was the first time I realized and I understood that there is such a different way of looking at our own identity and our own name, So I
It's
really
very,
find
very,
it
very interesting what you say, because in India, definitely all the names, like Shamini, for example, has a meaning. Yeah? Rashi has a meaning. These names are meaningful. Even Benedetta has a meaning.
I
But
would like to know what the meaning of mine is because supposedly it was made up. It was something that was heard in the air. So we've actually asked people, and one person said it's not a proper Sanskrit word. So
well, it is very properly made by grammar, because Sham is to be blissfully peaceful. I would add blissfully peaceful. And Shamini is the one who possesses that quality of being blissfully peaceful.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
That's great.
wow, congratulations, such a beautiful name. Actually, Vladimir is very good at making you feel very expanded just by the name. He told me the meaning of my name after so many years when we were together teaching in Oroville. And he said, Rashi is not just Tula Rashi and Mesh Rashi. Rashi means the window to the cosmos. Oh my God. Those were like the best 24 hours of my life that way. Vladimir, you see.
But I would say that the names have meanings everywhere. It's just that in the West we don't pay so much attention in the choosing. But people choose because they like the sound, or they don't refer to an astrologist, or they don't. The way of choosing has become much less meaningful. No, something like that.
Yeah,
well, I think, yes. And could it be possible that there is an intuitive drive, an intuitive informing of how the name is chosen?
Yeah.
Even if it's, it's unconscious, but intuitive at the same time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The sound you choose, the sound has a meaning only. We just don't know. We don't think about it. We do not really perceive it within ourselves. But we will learn in this introduction to see it differently. to see it systematically, because really it has a particular general significance which generates other meanings, contextual meanings.
And that connects that to prana thing, I think. You know what you're saying between what is the connection between the two? The spirit. For example, if you're intuiting the name of your own child, for example, you're intuiting sound and you are connecting that spirit, actually. Like
Absolutely.
sometimes, when I'm working with pregnant people, I have put my hand on their tummy and I've heard their name. The child has told me the name and I told the parent, and sometimes I can't tell till the child is born. So I write down and keep it so that I can tell later. And it's just so amazing that the soul knows the sound which captures its essence. It is just so, this whole world is so amazing when you look at it, that what
Wonderful.
is it that connects both the two, the sound and the hearing, the word and the naam and the rupa. The connection of spirit is what I'm so fascinated about. Thank you, Ladini.
Yeah, lovely. And this is a great. I know some people intuitively also ask the name. What is your name? Yeah, that when they think how to name the child, yeah, that what they do, they contemplate, they call to the name, they wait for it to come, and then it comes, and they know it. This is it. Some people do it differently, and that is, yeah, that's another matter. Great, lovely. Okay,
Come.
we can. Oh, lovely!
I
Such a
want
nice
to say that
doggy.
before I met this little creature, I was thinking, oh, my new dog, his name is going to be Indra. Indra.
Wow, poor
Not an
dog.
Indra.
No,
His
Indra.
name is Nanda. He is
Nandra.
definitely joyful.
Nandri.
Yes, that's a great.
Mm.
Vladimir,
Indra would go
sorry,
ahead. Sorry.
just a logistics thing. I sent you a note in chat, and I apologize if I'm the only one that cannot find the link to the Google folder. So, if
You
you
didn't find?
no, I looked in my emails. I don't know what I did.
So I will send you again, no problem. I will send you to all of you again the link. And
I have it. I got it.
okay. Great. Let's close with the mantra for today. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santo Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Hari Om. Namaste.
Thank you and bye bye. Bye, everybody. Bye,
Bye bye.
Melissa.
Bye.